Hey guys, and welcome to another review of a Disney live action remake, which as you can imagine is not good. Like almost none of the Disney live action remakes are good. Like even The Jungle Book that I loved on my first viewing actually, and if you even thought was better than the original, even that Jungle Book is actually not so good on subsequent viewings, especially when you find out it's all CGI and not actual real natural jungle. Yeah, that very much takes the points away from this movie. But oh well, that's a different story. And because here we are talking about Peter and Wendy. And Peter Pan and Wendy is no different from all the other live action Disney remakes. It's most certainly not as terrible and doesn't piss me off as much as the live action Pinocchio from last year, but it's still very much pointless. Then again, maybe because Peter Pan has never been one of my favorite Disney movies, in contrast to Pinocchio, which is my very favorite Disney movie and possibly my favorite animated movie ever. Maybe that's why this Peter Pan did not piss me off as much as the Pinocchio. But it's still very much a completely pointless live action Disney remake that we really don't need. Because we don't need those Disney live action remakes. Like, it very much shows how, like, the Hollywood and entertainment industry in the West, especially in the United States, completely lacks original ideas. And instead of thinking of something cool, something new, they're just now retelling all of their Disney animated classics in live action, which I already said before and will say it again, is just plain pointless. Peter Pan and Wendy, I suppose, isn't as bad as Pinocchio, and certainly I will even say it's slightly better than The Lion King, and it's better than Maleficent, so maybe it's not like one of the very, very worst, but it's still not very good. Yeah. Like, for example, a perfect example of that is that the role of Peter Pan here is very much reduced, and it's mostly Wendy's movie, basically, so by that logic, why even call it Peter Pan and Wendy? Why not just call it Wendy? Although there admittedly has been another movie called Wendy that I haven't seen, but it is on Disney Plus, like I guess 2 years ago, I don't exactly know, but yeah, there has already been another Wendy movie that's on Disney Plus, so I suppose that's why they named this Peter Pan and Wendy. But, oh well, this is very much more Wendy's movie than it is Peter Pan's movie. And not saying she's a bad character, she's actually a pretty good character in the voice of reason for all the other characters, but at the same time, their focus on Peter Pan is completely reduced in this movie, and they make Peter so much more incompetent than he originally was in the original Disney classic, and also in the original book, actually. Like here, Peter barely does anything other than basically constantly losing to Captain Hook, both duels, when Peter is supposed to be the one that defeats Captain Hook, and only getting out of trouble because Wendy saves him both times. And it wouldn't necessarily be bad if it happened once, Wendy saving Peter Pan, but here it happens constantly, and Peter Pan just becomes incompetent, which kind of destroys his character from the original animated classic. But again, even if this movie was a faithful retelling, it still would be very pointless, like most live action remakes, but oh well. And then they also give Captain Hook a backstory, which is a perfect example of something where they are desperately trying to give on a fresh take and basically virtue signal and show the viewers, oh look, we're doing something new and different, look, we're trying to be unique. But that's not really the case. It's obvious that this change doesn't serve any purpose other than desperate attempt to prove they're trying to do something new and original with the story, even because at the end it doesn't really lead anywhere. I generally love backstories, I love twists, I love explanations, I love when a story is given an expansion and gives you far more details than what the original story portrayed. A perfect example of that would be the movie Tim Burton's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which I think is pretty underrated, actually. It's nowhere near as good as the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But again, we're going on a tangent, but I'm just saying that using an example, in this movie they gave Willy Wonka a backstory. And I think that very much worked in the movie's favor. Like, another example is, my favorite adaptation of The Christmas Carol is the Alistair Sim from the 50s. That's a classic, and they very much expand on the backstory of Ebenezer Scrooge and show so much more details than the original book did. See, those are perfect examples of expansions and backstories that very much serve this favor to the story, and I love that. But here, as I already said, it very much feels completely pointless, and it feels like, as I already said, they're just simply trying to give something original to the story, even because ultimately, as I already said, it leads nowhere. Like, the final battle with Captain Hook is again Peter and Hook sword dueling, with the exception of Peter being now more incompetent and losing a duel, but Wendy saving him. And then, again, Hook gets defeated and falls inside the water. Yep. And even that wasn't very well done. Like, the crocodile that originally ate Captain Hook in the original story, and in the Disney classic, Hook could get out and chase him. Here, the crocodile only shows up once, much earlier in the movie, and then never comes back. Like it would be more beneficial for the movie to at least have the crocodile maybe pop up at the exact moment where Hook falls to the water and eat him. While that would certainly not make the movie much better, it would certainly give at least a much more poetic and much more logical end to Captain Hook, and that certainly is much more in line with Captain Hook's official fate. But no, the crocodile never pops up, and the crocodile only appears in one scene, much like in the beginning of the movie when they arrive in Neverland, and then never ever shows up again, not even for the final battle, which is just plain stupid. Like, because the crocodile is one of the most essential parts of this story. So, and another thing, there is even a very dumb scene in the beginning how Wendy meets the lost boys, although, as she herself notices, they're not all boys, and when she asks them, and they say so, she just says doesn't matter, even though everyone knows what's wrong with that. Like, if they're not all boys, why are they even called boys? Like, if they really wanted to put girls into the group, which would be contradictory to also the original story, where it was especially said that girls are more mature, that Peter never takes girls, just lost boys. But oh well, whatever. In the modern days they like changing and stuff, but at least they could say lost children. That at the very least and get rid of that stupid scene and instead say lost children. At least that will be more consistent. But oh well, they deliberately had to do this virtue signaling, like they often do, sadly. And overall, Peter Pan and Wendy is simply no different than other Disney live-action remakes. It's just a perfect example of a pointless movie that we don't need. And so yeah, it's not as terrible as Pinocchio. Then again, Pinocchio is my favorite Disney movie ever, so maybe I'm just far more angry at that live-action Pinocchio. And it's maybe not even as bad as The Lion King, which is basically just a CGI fest anyway. And I'm going to even as far as say it's slightly better than live-action Aladdin. But again, it's another example of a pointless movie that we really don't need. So yeah. So I am not surprised, but Peter Pan and Wendy is joining the score of all the other live-action Disney remakes, which means it's getting... Okay guys, so thank you for watching this video. Press the like button, please subscribe this channel. Did you see Peter Pan and Wendy? And I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you very soon, bye!